Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Courtside with Beilinson Tennis, as always with my co-host and Hall of Famer, Steve Flink. I know, Steve, we wanted to do an episode a few days ago. For our listeners now, for time stamping purposes, we're recording on Sunday nights. We wanted to do one a few days ago because there was a lot we wanted to cover, just couldn't get to it. Life sometimes gets in the way of these things, Steve. But we got a lot to talk about, a little bit of negative stuff, but mostly all good because it's been a fun start to the second major of the year.
Absolutely. Well, go to it. I'm looking for this. There is a lot to talk about, so I'm going to let you lead us into it.
Yeah, so all right, we'll go back a little bit, and I know this was an important tournament leading up to the French Open for Novak Djokovic because he had very little success in the clay, and he did actually get his 100th title. We said it would be a success for him, even if he won two or three matches, just to get some match play in for any sort of confidence leading into Roland Garros. He gets his 100th title. He joins Roger and Jimmy. On the men's side, there are also, I think, three women, maybe four. I know Chrissy Martina, and I know I'm missing one or two. You probably
Steffi.
Steffi. Oh, how could I
Yeah,
forget Steffi? Yeah, Steffi. Um, so Novak gets his 100th title, and more important, as far as being current, is not so much the 100th title, is that it was on clay and it got him confidence, and he's starting to play well in Roland Garros.
yeah, it was very important. A quick, funny, amusing story surrounding that is that the day after the celebration for Nadal, with the great honor on the stadium court in Chatrier Stadium for his 14 titles and what he's done to make that tournament even more immense. Djokovic was doing a press conference, and he said that Murray out on the court when they did that thing joked with him about, not you finally win a title, you got a proper coach, and now you got a title. And that was very funny because it was double edged, because I'm sure Andy was very disappointed that it couldn't have happened when he was there and that he couldn't have helped more. He tried his hardest, it didn't work out. So that was amusing. But on a more serious note, the title was very important because you said it. A couple of matches was going to be helpful. Then suddenly two turned to three, turned to four. And in that last of the four, he beat Hurkacz 7-6 in the third from a breakdown in the third, won the last two sets in breakers. So that was a really uplifting victory for him. Seldom could an ATP 250 have meant more to him that it turned out to be his 100th title, because he had come so close. He'd been in the finals after he got his 99th at the Olympics. He's in the finals of Shanghai. Last fall, lost to Sinner. He lost that Miami final to Menchik, and that was frustrating. And now here it was on the line. He got all the matches he needed. He got the confidence he needed. And David, it's carried him through his first three matches here into the round of 16 for a meeting with Cam Norrie, who he beat in the semis of Geneva without losing a set. You can see the mentality is completely changed. That doesn't mean he wins the tournament. It just means that he's at least back to feeling like the real Novak Djokovic.
Exactly. Yeah. Very well said. Again, critical week for Novak heading in. I want to talk about the Rafa celebration because you jogged my memory on something important with that. It was well due. No one was really happy with how it kind of went last year, and it was unfair to a lot of the people who were going to prepare something because Rafa wasn't totally sure, at least during the French Open time, if this was going to be his last one. So some of that was unplanned for, but this was very well done. And one thing that Rafa said, and I think this is a life lesson for everyone who can take into account. When he had Andy, Roger, and Novak out there with him, and what a special moment that those three guys were able to attend and join him. He said something that really plays in somewhat. I think everybody can take this to heart, and no matter what they do in life, and that you're always going to have rivals and you're always going to have competition and you're going to fight like hell when you're in those battles with those people. But that doesn't mean you can't be cordial. You don't necessarily have to be best friends, but you can respect the heck out of each other. And yeah, if you become friends, even when you're fighting for the biggest of titles or whatever it is that it may be, you can still be friends. And I think that really is a really good life lesson for everyone to take to heart.
Yeah, and it's a philosophy that he represented throughout his career. It wasn't just sort of phony words to suit the occasion. He lived that motto throughout his career and said many similar things while it was going on. Now he did add to that, David, that it's just a game. I feel have mixed feelings about that. It's a game to which he devoted his entire life. But what he's saying is, let's keep perspective. It's tennis. It's sport. The public is there to be entertained by us, and we have to put that in perspective. But it was a spectacular day, no doubt about it. And Nadal is very genuine when he makes those remarks. Nobody can question his sincerity.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. I loved it all, and it was a great day for basically to celebrate tennis. That's how I kind of viewed it. Especially Carlos and Ego were also in the crowd watching it, so it was great. All right, let's talk about a few rough early results, and I just want to hit on them quickly because there's a lot of positive stuff that we want to get to. Early on in the tournament, the first day, again, it starts on Sunday. Peyton Stearns, who had done so well in Rome, she got beat 6-0, 6-3. I don't know if it was injured or not feeling well or just the gas tank was on empty. She made the semis of a Masters 1000 for the first time in her career, winning three matches, 7-6 in the third. She had so many hours on court. I'm not looking to make excuses. I don't think she'll make excuses for herself. But after that run in Rome, obviously disappointing to lose first day of the tournament.
Yeah, it was. It was what? It was a shame for her, but doesn't diminish what she did in Rome. And she'll still move on to the grass and the hard courts feeling pretty good about herself. She'll get over it, but the scoreline was a shocker, to be sure.
The following day, Emma Navarro lost again in a score that was crazy, 6-0, 6-1. You don't see that. Again, one-sided. What was going on with Emma? Was she sick? Was she injured? And then Taylor Fritz lost first round in four sets. Steve, we've talked about this before, and I saw him and I talked with him up in Del Rey. I don't think he's been healthy for most of this year, Steve. I think something is still bothering him.
Taylor.
Yes, Taylor.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And he doesn't like to kind of belabor it and go on making excuses. He's tried to avoid that, but he was talking about it early during this before he lost about how he's played through. There are a couple of tournaments he probably shouldn't have played early in the year. That's a pretty frank admission from Fritz. And who knows? Maybe he wasn't really. Maybe he shouldn't have played this. And my hope with him is that even if it meant missing Wimbledon, I take the time you need and then come back at full strength. And you don't have to, because I think it plays on his mind, and it's no fun to go out there feeling like you're not 100% and you have to somehow negotiate a victory under compromised circumstances. I feel badly for him, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I do too. All right. One other result that was really shocking, and I put him in the same camp as like a Musetti just because he was playing so well, was Cerundolo. He lost in straight sets to Diallo. Diallo's a good player, but you think, looking at going into Roland Garros, you think Cerundolo's going to make a legit run at this thing.
No doubt about it. You remember the great five-setter he had with Djokovic there a year ago. He's improved enormously since. And yes, he was considered, he would have been on everybody's top 5 or 6 list to win this title. The problem is, I think he was too aware of the way the rest of us were thinking, what his colleagues were thinking, what the media was saying. And sometimes when you read your own press clippings too much, it can get in your way. I honestly think that must be what happened. There's no other explanation with other than a possible injury. But I was sorry to see it happen. I wanted to see him go deep into this event.
We have a saying that, it's always easier to be the hunter instead of being the hunted. And he's now getting to that stage where he's no longer the hunter. He's now being hunted by other players. So maybe it's just taken him a little bit of time knowing that, look, there's a target on him right now from the other players because he's been so good for a long time.
Oh, there is. But, he had played well. We'd seen some really good stuff from him all year long, and leading up to this. And clay is his best surface. He's great on hard as well. That's all right. He'll move on from this. It's just that he's a kind of player that he's really exhilarating to watch. And I think the fans would have really enjoyed. Has one of the most explosive forehands in the game. So
he loves this surface too. You want him to do well on this surface.
Oh, on this surface and at this venue. So that was unfortunate. So be it. A couple of surprises that you mentioned. Those are the negatives.
Now we get to the positives. For the Americans, Steve, 8 Americans reached the round of 16. Was it the first time in 40 years? 5 women and 3 men. Then we got 22 years for an American to make. It's been 22 years since an American to make the quarters. Tommy reaches it this morning in the States, morning in the States time, and then TFO joins him a little bit later. TFO has not lost a set, by the way. I don't think if I had told you that or anyone that he would make the quarters without losing a set, I don't think you would you would believe me.
No, not only would we not believe you, we wouldn't care what the draw was. I wouldn't care how much it opened up. That was inconceivable. But really is it's of great value to him because he hadn't had a great seasons and he now has saved his strength. So if he gets into a long, debilitating skirmish against Musetti in the quarters, I feel like he should be up to it. He's not coming in bruised at all.
No.
He's coming in rested, confident, and ready. So I think they're going to have quite a battle. I believe Tiafoe may have a 3-2 career edge against Musetti. He lost a close one to him in Rome on the clay once. And so I feel like Musetti, slight edge, but only slight.
Yeah, I'll give a little bit more than a slight edge on that. I think Musetti's 60-40, maybe 62-38. I'll go as high for
That's fair enough. I'm going more like 53-47 Musetti.
more
But
because of the surface, obviously.
yes,
Steve.
right. But it'll be a lot of fun. There'll be a lot of really exciting shot making in that match, and they will push each other to the hilt physically. I have no doubt about that. And I also would be very surprised either way if the match doesn't go at least 4, potentially 5.
Now, the other quarter that's set on the very bottom of the draw is Tommy Paul versus Carlos Alcaraz. Alcaraz had a scintillating match with Ben Shelton, and we could talk a little bit about that. I mean, both players showed unbelievable respect to each other. Carlos Alcaraz has always been such a great sportsman. He made one of the best sportsmanship plays, in any sport that he did earlier today. He lunged for a volley. He made an unbelievable shot with the
Yeah,
racket leaving his hand. He
right.
then said to the umpire, the racket had left his hand before he hit the ball, which is not allowed. And it
Yeah,
was a
you know
bang
what,
bang play.
David, I couldn't agree more. But the amazing thing is, I wasn't surprised because that's him.
Yep.
He's a really first rate individual that way. And all his integrity is remarkable. So if
Remarkable.
he'd done anything less than that, I would have been surprised. But I think Shelton appreciated it. And in all fairness to Ben, you reverse the roles. I think he would have done the same thing too.
I agree, and I think you give a lot of credit to the people um, who are involved with the player who surround himself with unbelievable people. You know, Rafa always talked about that. Reason why he was so successful was he had such good people around him.
Right,
Carlos
right.
Alcaraz, same thing. You said
But
Ben
just the
Shelton,
thing,
same thing.
David, sorry to interrupt. I just don't want us to dart away from this too fast. Let's just talk briefly about that match because it was spectacular.
Unbelievable.
There were no breaks in the first set. One break point for Carlos, none for Ben. They go to the breaker. Ben had 3 set points in the breaker. He led 6-4 and 7-6. And the first one, no chance because Carlos hit a great wide service winner. The second one, Ben had a chance. You know, he hit a blistering forehand down the line, and then Carlos flicked it back nicely, and Ben missed a pretty routine two-hander. That was the one that might haunt him a bit. But on the third, he hit a passing shot pretty hard directly at Carlos, who managed to make a brilliant backhand drop volley to get out of it. So that was a critical set because it put Carlos out in front. And then Ben had 6 break points to start the second. Carlos fended him off again and played a brilliant game to break at 4-3 with a couple of magnificent forehand down the line winners set to Alcaraz. But remarkably, Ben, who had been up a break in the third and gave it right back, broke again at the end to take the third set before Carlos grabbed one break early in the fourth and made it count. But the tennis, I think it was very encouraging for Shelton because you know what, David, the odds makers were saying that they thought it would be straight. I thought it going in on this surface, he wouldn't be able to take a set. He could well have taken 2 sets today. So, and his level was so good from the baseline. Occasionally he makes those surprising errors, especially off his back end that you don't expect when he's not going for too much. But overall, the forehand is much more reliable. It's still immense firepower up that side. The backhand still improved, and he varies the serve so well that he really made it tough for Carlos today. It was a really first-rate performance from Shelton in defeat. and quite a good one from Alcaraz in victory. And
And
Carlos
both
just
players
played.
said that, Steve. Both players said that the level was elite. That was
Yeah,
amazing.
it was, and Carlos was just that little bit better on the biggest points. We see it time and again at this level. He's the defending champion. He's got the experience at this point, but I felt like it was a big step in the right direction for Shelton to do this on a clay court at Roland Garros against Carlos Alcaraz, arguably the best clay court player in the world.
I want to talk about something I've talked about with friends before. I believe I've said this on one of our many episodes too. You talk about the first set, and I don't want this to get in the head of players who lose the first set, but especially out of 3 out of 5, Steve. If the player is the underdog and loses the first set, in this case it was Ben or whoever, if you play Novak or Rafa or Fed, the odds just get so much tougher against you because then you got to win 3 out of 4 sets against
Oh,
these
no
guys,
doubt
and
about it.
it's so
The,
difficult.
couldn't agree more. The tables are not even under those circumstances. Like take the match in Australia that Ben played against Sinner in the semifinals. There, he served for the first set at 6-5, had a couple of set points. He needed that set, and both players knew it. He needed it more than Sinner did.
Yes.
And when he didn't win it, now contrast that with today. When he didn't win the set in Australia after having 2 set points to go up a set, Sinner beat him 2-2 the last 2 sets. This was very different today because he stayed competitive through the 4 sets and managed to grab a set. So I think it was a really impressive display from Shelton today. From
I
start,
agree. I agree with you. I think both players leave that match feeling pretty good. Obviously, Ben would like a different result, but he's going to have confidence from this, no doubt. All right. So who does Carlos play? None other than Tommy Paul, who is the second American, first who made it this morning into the quarters. Tommy has played Carlos tough, and he's beaten him head to head. Carlos leads 4-2. They've never played on clay. You would think clay, okay, leans towards Carlos, but I'm curious to see how this one plays out. I mean, Alcaraz is the favorite. Um, this would be a huge opportunity if Tommy can get through it, and then he'll play the winner of Musetti and Tiafoe in a semi with a real opportunity to possibly get to a final. Now that's looking way ahead. He's not even thinking about that match. All he's thinking about right now is Carlos Alcaraz.
listen, Tommy came off a couple of 5-setters in a row. He played the Fusovic and was down 2 sets to love, and he won that. He beat Hachinov in 5 after that. He was ailing. He looked like he had some stomach muscle issues.
Yes, he's not 100%. He's
But to get through today against Poprin in straight sets 3-3 and 3 was very, very important for him. You could tell how relieved he was that he didn't take any more out of his body than that. I feel like he can play Carlos as tough on clay as he can on any other surface. And will he win? Doubtful. It's just like you were giving the odds on the other one. I'd still say this one I would say is 70-30 to Carlos, but I expect Tommy to be competitive. I'll be surprised if he doesn't take a set. I think it'll be Carlos has dropped sets in 3 of his 4 matches now. And that doesn't mean Tommy is entitled to one, but I think the way he plays, the movement, the consistency from the baseline, the shot making, it's all there that he's going to test Carlos for sure. It's just
Can
that,
he hit enough winners? Can he end points? Can he end enough points on his terms to beat Carlos? Because what you said, the defense, he can defend, he can speed, he has the speed, he has the athletic ability. Can he end enough points on his term? That to me is the biggest question of the match, and why I'm going to go 66-34. Does that up to 100? I think it does. So
yeah, well, we're close
66-34.
on this one. We're about 4% apart. I just feel like that's part of the equation. The other part is, can he coax enough errors from
Mm.
Carlos? Because Carlos at times beats himself, and it'll be a different kind of match than Ben. In the longer rallies today, I think Carlos trusted himself. He felt like if he could extend those rallies to 14, 16 shots, the odds were in his favor. He doesn't necessarily feel that way against Tommy. So if Carlos just starts pressing a bit, I think Tommy can extract some errors from him. So that'll also be a factor in the outcome.
I would say Ben, with his serve and some of his shot making, has some weapons that Tommy does not, as far as ending points early.
Oh,
And
I
I
agree.
think
I agree.
that fared better for Ben than it does with Tommy, and that's why I'm having trouble. I want this match to be amazing. I
No,
just
what I'm
don't know
saying,
if Tommy has the firepower to get it done.
no, I don't think he does. What I'm saying is in the longer exchanges, he'll do better than Shelton because he can run down a lot of balls. He's a more percentage player. He'll rely on his consistency and his speed. And then if Carlos is not, Carlos starts missing a few, as was the case when he played Zoomer in the previous round. There's some matches where he starts misfiring off the forehand, and where the adventuresome side of him gets the best of him. So I think it's a different kind of mentality for Tommy Paul than it is for Shelton. He knows he can't slug with him like that. There's no way. But
Yeah.
I think he does feel like he can hold his own in longer baseline rallies.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. All right, so there's a few round of 16 matches. That we'll kind of go through this quickly, Steve, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Sinner who's looked unbelievable. He plays Rublev again. We know the good Rublev can play with anyone, but he's been really inconsistent for quite a while now. Expect Sinner to. You think Sinner has any issues with that one?
No, I don't, because this is not the Rublev of, say, 21, 22, 3 and into last year. His results have not been the same. He hasn't really been the same. He's a big hitter and he still remains dangerous, but not to the same degree. So I would say no. I'd be surprised if he lost a set. I think he'll keep his record intact. There could be some close sets, some 6-4, 7-5 sets maybe, but I like his chances to win in straight.
Next match would be Bublik and Draper. Bublik and Draper. Draper smoked Fonseca. I think a little bit of experience helped with that. I think Draper wins, and I'm looking forward to that Draper Sinner quarter if it happens.
Yeah. Now, just to comment on Bublik, he had that shocking win for me, at least it was, over the number 9 seed Alex de Minaur. That was
Yeah.
that, and he did it from 2 sets down. De Minaur had won the first 2 sets 2-2, and Bublik came back. He's a confounding player. He does a lot of unconventional things on the court. He's tricky, breaks your rhythm up, attacks a lot. But I don't see how that works against Draper, because I think Draper is going to dominate on his own serve, just like he did in the previous round against Fonseca. There was great anticipation for that clash between Fonseca and Draper just took him apart as he had done on hard courts a few months ago, and it was really no match. Now, this one will be trickier, but I can't see it being any worse than a 4-set win for Jack Draper.
Zverev and Griekspoor. I know they've had some tough matches in the past, but I'm thinking Zverev is going to get through that one.
I think so. I think it could be complicated, as most of their contests are, and I could easily see it going 4, maybe 5, but I think at this point, Zverev has sort of put aside some of the surprising losses he had on the clay leading up to Roland Garros. He's feeling good about his game and about himself, and he hasn't taken much out of himself this tournament. He dropped a set. He did drop 1 set so far in the 3 matches, but that's it. So it's not one of those arduous roads that he sometimes travels down at majors, and he's fresh and he's ready, and he respects Griekspoor. So I'm thinking Zverev in 4.
And then we touched on it briefly earlier. Norrie and Djokovic, they just played in a previous tournament. Norrie could be a tricky player. He has not been when he was, what was that, a few years ago, where he was close to top 10, if not top 10, I believe he is. He's
Yeah.
not at that stage anymore, but could be a tricky player. But I think Novak, again, having known that he just beat him, and Novak's, like you said, just in a different frame of mind right now, I think Novak gets through that one.
Yeah, that was the semifinal. That was the day before Djokovic won that match over Hurkacz. And
Yep.
actually, he had a match point in the second set to win it in straight. And Norrie came back, won the second in a breaker, but Novak ran away with the third set. But I think it was surely helpful for him to have played him so recently. And I think he's won all 5 of their career clashes. And he knows there'll be times where he'll have to work hard. And if you're playing a lefty and a grinder he's a very wily player who came from 5-3 down in the 5th to beat Medvedev in the first round. That was a great win for Norrie, but I think Djokovic will be ready. I mean, he's been very sharp the whole tournament. He hasn't dropped a set, and I feel like, okay, potentially could lose 1 set to Norrie, maybe, but I think maybe a slightly better chance he wins in straight. I think he'll be ready for that one.
All right, are we just I mean, is it obvious that it's going to be, are you totally sold on an Alcaraz Sinner final, or do you think you're not totally sold on that and you think someone else could interrupt one of those two players? I
No.
have a dark horse that I mentioned to our friend David Zakoden after the third round, not after the second round. I don't know if I can take credit for that. But my dark horse to win this whole thing is Musetti.
Yeah, I can understand that. I just have a hard time. I don't have a hard. We agree that he should beat Tiafoe, should. So that would put him into the semis. And can he beat Carlos? He beat him a couple of years ago on clay, but more recently he lost to him. I don't know. I can't quite see him beating Carlos in best of five. Now, if Carlos somehow stumbled highly unexpectedly, but he stumbles against Tommy Paul, that's a different story.
Right.
Then it opens up for Musetti. Obviously, Draper is dangerous. Can he beat Sinner on clay? I don't think so. But with that serve, he is dangerous. He could make it competitive. That could, and then obviously Novak. There's the question of whether Novak gets sky high for the. If he comes into the semis, if he comes off a good win over Zverev in the quarters, he'd have to win a hard fought match with Zverev. But on the other hand, Zverev to play Sinner to play Alcaraz.
Yeah, three. That's
But
tough three.
if he gets through Nori without too much trouble, he's conserved a lot of energy too. And so then he's ready to take on, and if he's able to, let's say he's able to beat Zverev in 4 sets and it's not a marathon, all these things make a difference. But I feel like he's very inspired right now. And I maintain that he's still the third most likely. I don't think things have changed that much, except that the gap, when you look at the top 2 candidates for the title in Alcaraz and Sinner, I think I closed the gap because Sinner's looking very, very good. We'll see how Carlos plays in the next couple of rounds, but he's dropping these sets and he's not totally, he hasn't been the very best Alcaraz yet. So I don't know. That's how I size it up. Things haven't changed too much, but I think Djokovic has done himself a favor to be as efficient as he has coming into the round of 16.
And man, if he beats Zverev in the quarters, Sinner in the semis, and Carlos in the final, well done, Novak. Well done.
Yeah, no. I mean, obviously, that's where it's funny. The draw was so kind to him in these, conceivably, at least as assuming he beats Nori, it kind to him in the first 4 rounds.
Right.
But then look what he would conceivably have to do in the last 3 to take the title. It doesn't get much tougher than to beat Zverev, who was a runner-up last year, Sinner, who hasn't won this tournament yet, but he's won the last 3 majors. I mean, he's won 3 majors, excuse me, not the last 3 because he didn't win Wimbledon last year. But I mean, I just feel like you're beating number 1 in the world, you're beating the defending champion, you're beating last year's finalist to take the title. That's not easy, but I still don't put it past him. I think he's he's in a good frame of mind right now.
I do want to talk about the day session of the women's matches that happened today because both matches were unbelievable. Svitolina saved 3 match points against Paolini. We all know how good Paolini has been. She made the finals last year. We've talked about her on the previous episode, how good she is. She now plays Iga Swiatek, who looked terrible in the first set, and you could even argue early stages of the second against Rybakina. Rybakina had a chance to go up in that second and really take control of this whole match. Iga comes back, wins 1-6, 6-3, 7-5. Svitolina will play Swiatek in the quarters.
Yeah, let's talk. Since you mentioned Iga, let's talk about that one first. She was down love 5, 15-40. Could easily have lost the first set 6-love. Salvaged the 1 game. Goes down 2-love in the second, having not won a point in the first 2 games. And then once again holds on. And then in the 4th game, that was a turning point because Rybakina had saved a break point, got back to deuce, went down break point again. And on that break point, she came in and had what looked like an easy overhead. She kind of let it drop, and instead of hitting an overhead, took it really more as a high forehand volley and dumped it in the net. She was so close to the net, it was hard to imagine. That was a big point because it gave her the opening. She had the break. She ran out that second set pretty easily. But then in the third, it was really hard fought, and Rybakina had some break points to go up 4-2 in the third that Iga managed to salvage, and then Iga broke her. But the next thing you know, there's a questionable call. The umpire came down for the chair at 4-all in the third. With Iga thinks she's got the break, it called a double fault. And the umpire comes down and says, no, it wasn't a double fault. It hit the line. So it's a first serve for Rybakina, who now holds on for 5-4. And I thought at that moment, wow, Iga's going to have to serve to stay in the match. This could be tough. She lost 3 more points the rest of the way, 12 out of 15 points. So that was a good sign, David, because she's been shaky mentally. Yet when the chips were down there at the tail end of the third set, she came through with some help from Rybakina, to be sure. But still, it's a confidence-building win for her that takes her into the quarters. Now, Paolini.
Well, one thing before we get to Paolini, she said, to just reiterate your point, Iga said after the match in the press conference that this was a match I needed to get through and win because, again, she is lacking confidence as well. And we thought maybe the familiarity with prior success at Roland Garros that will help her. It obviously has. And then getting through a very tough match against a very, very good player it looks to be really good. Now, again, we're going to talk the Paolini match, but Swiatek maybe headed on a collision course with Sabalenka in a semi.
I hope so. I hope so, David. We all hope so. That would be fascinating right now because Sabalenka comes into the tournament as the favorite. She's the one that's had the results. She was in the finals of the Australian, very close to winning that a third year in a row, and she's played well all year, very consistent. Iga has not. She hasn't won a title since here last year. So that would be fascinating because the conditions might favor Swiatek slightly because it's, on this clay, and she's won, she's looking for number 5, and all you can come up with all those reasons with her past success here, and then Sabalenka bidding hard to take this title and feeling like she can beat Iga on any kind of court. I think they could end up having a classic 3-setter in the semifinals. Let's hope they both get through.
All right, now to your point, the Paolini match earlier today.
Paolini, okay, so she's up 6-4, 5-3, serving for the match. Svitolina breaks her, but in the following game, Paolini had 2 match points, and Svitolina kind of forced an error off of with a cross-court forehand pretty deep. It was a forced error, I thought, on that first match. But in the second one, Paolini went for a backhand down the line. It was a slightly high ball. She looked like she had the opening, and she missed it pretty badly. So then the next thing you know, they go to a tiebreak. There's another match point for Paolini in the tiebreak. And great play from Svitolina, who came in and knocked off a volley. And then the disappointing thing to me was that Paolini, who's such a fierce competitor, I think she kind of lost steam. She was despondent in her way. She lost 6-1 in the third. You don't expect that. Svitolina is a very cagey player, terrific match player. So it was going to be hard to stop her in the third, but 6-1 was disappointing. Tells me that emotionally, I think Paolini had nothing left. But Svitolina but Svitolina actually might give Iga a tougher match than Paolini would have. We'll never know. But I suspect that I still think Iga wins that contest. And I still think Iga plays. Sabalenka's got to play Qinwen Zheng, the Chinese girl, and who just beat her the last time they played. But again, I like Sabalenka to win that match. I think we have a pretty good chance as we sit here now of getting the match that we want between Sabalenka and Swiatek, which was starting to become, for a while, we thought it was the premier rivalry in women's tennis. Then Iga's had her slump, but maybe now is her time to get back into it, and the rivalry takes on a new dimension.
I want to talk about the American women on the bottom half of this draw. They're still in the round 16. There's 4 of them in there, Steve. Now, you have Pegula, you have Keys, you got Haley Baptiste, who's having a great tournament.
Yeah.
And Coco Gauff. Now, Keys and Baptiste play each other, and then the winner of that may play Coco. So, obviously, in the latter stages of the tournament, you're going to get head-to-head between these Americans. But looking right now, I mean, Coco's playing well. Keys saved 3 match points against Canada. I mean, just again showing how clutch she is. You remember the incredibly tight matches that she got through in Australia. Here, saving 3 match points against Canada, gets through. You're looking at a possible Keys-Gauff quarter.
Yeah, no, listen, that was a really impressive win. Madison, in that 4-5 game when she saved the 3 match points, David, she was overhitting. There were 2 or 3 balls that she overhit. I mean, she went for them, but she'd missed by a foot long. She was really struggling. And on one of the match points, she just hit a beautiful, clean backhand cross court winner. On the first one, she saved with a short and wide, heavy kick serve that was impossible for Kenin to get back, and then Madison coaxed in there on the other. It was impressive to me that she stood up to a stern challenge from a really informed Kenin, and then from there was no doubt she was going to win the match. I feel like she should beat Baptiste, not necessarily easily, but I don't see her. But and then I think it would be a fascinating quarterfinal against Coco. I mean,
I should know this. I didn't research it, but have Madison and Coco played against each other? I don't know. I have to think. I have
yeah,
to
I
look
don't
that
think
up.
much. I don't know how many. I hadn't thought about that, but
If
I
they
think
have, I don't think they played a lot. So
no. But on current form, I just feel like okay, you have to make Coco the favorite, but not by that much. And I think it's a match that, frankly, Keys would feel less pressure than she did against Kenin. I think she's happy that if she beats Baptiste, she's in the quarters. She's feeling okay. I'm right where I want to be. Everybody is talking Coco. Coco's been in the finals this tournament before. I've been in the semifinals, so I know what I can do too on clay. And I think they probably, and I could easily see a three-setter there.
be a
Still
fun
give
quarter. That'd be a fun
still give
quarter.
Coco the edge, David. But again, we get back to our kind of shaping up odds type thing. I would say I'd give Coco the edge, but maybe 55-45.
Yeah, I may even be tighter with that. I may even be, 52-48. But yeah, it's close to pick 'em for me in that one. But let's have it happen. I think that would be a very entertaining quarter to watch. All right, is the winner coming from that top half? Is the winner of this tournament coming from Sabalenka, uh, Zhang, or Svitolina or Swiatek, or is someone on that bottom half going to play the spoiler and win it?
Well, I think the one I still say Coco has a decent chance, a pretty good chance, actually, frankly, despite a couple of really solid losses, clear cut losses that she's had to Iga at this tournament, including one in the finals. I still think she goes in with a decent chance against. I'm not as the favorite, but as having a, I wouldn't want to count her out. She's the only one I'd say. Otherwise, I would say it does come from the top half, and it does come down to Sabalenka or Swiatek. But I'm putting Coco in that third slot. I'm saying she's not far behind them. And if she got back into the final, she was saying actually in an interview the other day, David, that before she won the Open, she always used to think in the back of her mind, I guess, that clay might be her best surface. So I don't think she was surprised when she made the finals here, and I don't think she'd be surprised if she won her second Grand Slam title here either.
All right, so let me ask you this, and we'll end it here. You said Novak is your third slot on the men's side, right? I think we agree with you. He's got a heck of a trio. If he gets through Nori, he then has to play. We already said it, right? You're
Yeah,
gonna ask me to
right.
memorize it. Zverev,
Yeah.
Sinner, and Alcaraz. Coco now, if she gets to the final, it's not going to be as challenging as what Novak would have to do. So, are you more confident with Coco as your number three, or with Novak as your number three?
Oh, it's pretty equal. I'd say it's pretty equal, despite the fact that I agree with you about the challenge of their respective draws. But I feel like it'll still be a tall order. But I would say that but I still put her as a solid three, and I still say if her form is really good, we see her pick up here in the next couple of rounds. And she beats Alexandrova in the round of 16, beats Keys in the quarters, and wins a semi against Andreeva. She will have done some very hard work herself. We talk about the hard work that Novak has, but those are not going to be easy matches to win either. If she's good enough to do all that and get to the finals, and I know she just lost that last one to Sabalenka, but she plays Sabalenka tough. She did win her last one easily against Iga. So I feel like she'll have a fighting chance if she can get, but this is not going to be easy navigating her way through the next couple of matches.
Yeah, we'll all be wrong, and Jess Pagula, who no one is talking about right now, will win this whole tournament and will make us all look silly. Steve, this was fun. We're going to do this after the tournament's over, so thank you for spending time. It was a good stage to do this, obviously, with half of the quarters filled up on both the men's and women's side, and then half of the remaining round of 16. So
yeah,
fun to talk about these matches, Steve.
Yeah, just the last comment on Sinner, because what I meant to say earlier, my point was that no, he didn't win Wimbledon last year, but he won the Australian last year. He then defended his crown this year. So you look at coming off the U.S. Open and the Australian, then his suspension. he is going for a third in a row himself now, and he's become more and more comfortable in these types of conditions in the majors. Once he got over the hurdle last year, he's closed the gap now, and it's 4 majors for Carlos and 3 for him. So I'm fascinated to see what he's going to do as well.
Fascinated to see both this play out on both the men's and women's side. Thanks again, Steve. This was fun.
Thank you, David.